For 3 weeks, I was listed as a missing person by Interpol.
Wow.
When did this happen?
In the mid-90s.
Where were you? Had you actually disappeared?
I was in Morocco.
What were you doing there?
I was on a bike ride in Spain.
You were on a bike ride in Spain in Morocco.
Can I have a moment to chat with my client?
What happened was, I met someone in Spain on a train, a Moroccan
So hang on,
man.
was this bike ride in Spain happening on the train? Was it? It was like, because I know that you get those Spanish bike rides on trains in Morocco. It's probably one of those.
No, there was bad weather, and that's why I took the train from the north of Spain to the south of Spain, because apparently, according to the local newspaper, there was better, more agreeable bicycling weather.
How did you then get into Morocco, though?
That is because I met that Moroccan bloke on the train. and...
Which Moroccan bloke?
Yeah, does he have a name?
I can't quite remember, but it was Mohammed or something.
But Mohammed the Moroccan, you met on the train in Spain.
He asked me if I wanted to join him to go to Morocco. And then I thought, well, I've never been outside Europe. In for a penny, in for a pound. So
you were picked up by a strange Moroccan on a train and agreed to go back to Morocco with him.
What's the worst that can happen?
How did you find out that you were on the Interpol list?
I realised only once I rang my parents, once I was back in Spain. And I rang my parents, and for them it was like someone found them from beyond the grave.
So why didn't you ring your parents from Morocco?
Because that man, that Mohammed,
You remember Mohammed, don't you?
Yeah.
He was the man on the train.
The Moroccan on the train.
The Moroccan on the train who invited him back to his house.
So and then when I was staying with Mustafa and his family...
From what port did you leave Spain and into which port did you enter Morocco?
Question.
Well, we left Spain, if I remember correctly, from Algeciras and went over to Suta, which is one of the 2 Spanish enclaves in the north of Morocco.
Good answer.
I think you've just clutched victory from the jaws of defeat.
How was it then resolved? How did you end up getting off of the list?
Well, hang on a minute, we're jumping ahead here.
Yeah.
What the hell
He's
did
allowed
you
to
in
do that,
Morocco?
isn't he?
What were you doing?
I was travelling with Mohammed.
My client is getting mixed up because at passport control they said you must have a passport. And he's getting a bit mixed up with the names.
I'm curious as to the fact that Interpol has a missing persons list.
Yeah, no, what happened is my parents got involved and they got Interpol involved.
Right.
And I sent a few postcards, one of them, to my friend Mark. And on that postcard I wrote, I've joined the Foreign Legion. Probably see you never again, have a good life or something. And then, Mark being a quite clever boy, so, OK, with this postcard I can have a lot of fun. I go round Henning's parents and say them something along the lines of, oh, Herr Wehn, Frau Wehn, you might be interested in this.
Sorry, so your friend Mark
Yes.
used this postcard to mentally torture your parents? I'll make his parents think he's disappeared forever for a laugh.
Well, it's German sense of humour.
What do we know about this Moroccan chap who we're calling Mohammed?
He hadn't been home for many, many years, and so we couldn't take the boat straight to Morocco. We had to go to one of the Spanish enclaves because he had to collect a suitcase full of books from a cafe in Suta.
What? why did he have a suitcase full of books?
Because someone left them there for him.
But why books in a suitcase?
Well, it was back in the mid-90s, people were still reading.
So he went to a cafe in the Spanish enclave of Morocco
Yes.
to collect a suitcase which he told you was full of books.
Well, I suppose a friend of his left them there.
Yes, but
I
why?
mean, you know what it sometimes is like, isn't it? Like, well, I can't quite think of an example.
But if he could, it would be like that.
Yeah.
This Interpol list that you were on, can you just elaborate on how your parents got you onto it?
Well, they rang the consulate, and they rang all
Which
sorts
consulate?
of... The German one.
Which German consulate?
Well, the one in Morocco.
They
And
didn't
the
ring
one
the
in-
police. They rang the German consulate in Morocco.
Well, that's how you would go about it, wouldn't you? It's no
don't
good
know.
ringing your local bobby.
And what happens then with the list? Do you just... They have to tell Interpol, stop
Yeah.
looking for Henning. We
Yeah, I
found him.
suppose so, yeah.
Well, did they? For all
My
we know, they're
parents are
still
quite-
looking for you now.
I'm safe!
So what do you think, David? Does any of that have the ring of truth, or has he made all that up?
What do you think, Kirsty?
I think it's so odd and inconsistent and unlikely that it must be true.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards as well.
Yeah.
I think that as well. I think it's true.
Yeah.
Henning, was that the truth, or were you telling a lie?
Well, this story is true. I was once arrested by border guards for illegally entering another country.
David's team, what do you think?
Which country?
It was in the mid-90s.
That's not a country.
No. And it was in Eastern Europe, so they changed names very quickly. So I'm not sure. It was either Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia. I don't know which.
You know what stage of its
Yeah, exactly.
dissolution it was at. Yeah. And what was the problem?
I didn't have my passport
Right.
Where had you left your passport?
at home.
Who were you with, by the way? Were you on your own, or
No, I
was
was with a friend from back home, Pete.
a friend from the pit?
No, with a person called Pete.
Is that his real name? Or is that a nickname?
Pete.
Oh, Pete.
No, P-I-T.
Oh, Pete.
Oh, it's Pit. It is called, he's called Pit.
Like Brad Pitt, but Pitt is his first name.
Otherwise, I would say Pete.
Yeah.
We were travelling on something that was called Schönes Wochenend-Ticket. And
That's German for National Express.
now what it is German for, you can use any train you like as long as it's a slow train.
We have that system with all of our trains.
National Rail.
OK, so you get off the train at the border.
You do.
Is it at that moment you realise you don't have your passport?
Yes. So we wanted to go into Czechoslovakia. So I didn't have my passport. So the obvious thing to do is don't go across where the border guards are, but go a mile off into the fields and cross there. If then someone wants to see your passport, you say, oh, I must have lost it.
Roughly how far into Czechoslovakia, in whatever form it was, were you?
I was about, give or take, a mile. I see in the distance, I see like two lights, two white lights. They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I realise it's a Jeep. And then they're driving towards us.
I'm quite gripped by this story.
The Jeep then just stopped, and then there is 4 people jumping out with automatic rifles and dogs.
Automatic dogs.
What sort of dogs were they?
I didn't ask for their names.
Neither did Alex.
They were terrifying dogs, probably Alsatians or something.
What happened? They're all around you. So
Well,
what
they
do
all
they say?
jump out with their rifles, don't they? And then saying, or whatever their language is. So, and then we had to get in the Jeep, and when we were driving off into Czechoslovakia, and then we ended up in some woods. One of them jumps out, opens a gate that I didn't even see was there. Then there is some little wooden hut. And was someone in there that spoke German. We got on well with that fella, and our excuse was that we said, we had no idea that we crossed the border.
Yeah.
So, and then, well, they didn't fully buy it, but they knew there was little point executing us.
What happens then?
And now the funny story begins. They said, you'll have to pay a penalty.
Oh, the Germans and penalties.
That
Not
penalty...
Never again, please.
Then the Czechs drove us back to the German border, handed us over to the German border guards, and then they congratulated us on being the first illegal immigrants from Germany into Czechoslovakia.
Well, there we are. David, what are you and your team thinking?
It's the travel card thing. It just seems right.
I think on an emotional level, having spent so long hearing that story, we need it to be true. Yeah. We need something.
We need it to be true
Yeah.
because a lot of our life went into that.
So
yes,
you're gonna
on
say
that
true?
emotional level, I think we have to say true.
You're saying it's true. Henning, truth or lie?
Well, that story is actually true.
Yes, that was true. Henning did get arrested for illegally entering another country.
For 3 weeks, I carted an empty box around without realising that what I bought wasn't actually in it.
David's team.
Right. What was it? What did you imagine it was?
What it was a... No, don't let me lie. It was... there was a plastic Christmas tree.
That's what you thought was in there?
Absolutely.
For 3 weeks.
But that's something you open quite quickly after buying it, a Christmas tree.
No, it's about the suspense, isn't it? Christmas is all about suspense, and...
I don't think it's all about suspense. Because, in general, when you buy a box that you think contains an artificial Christmas tree, you just assume that it does. You don't go, oh, I wonder if it's really in there. Because if you're seriously wondering if it's really in there, you'd check before you left the shop, wouldn't you?
Yeah, maybe I'd chosen my words not very wisely. Some of it got lost in translation.
Where did you buy it, by the way?
At Argos.
As you left the shop, did it not occur to you that it was quite light, this box?
Yes, but what? Yeah, but now it gets interesting. No, because shortly before that, I'd started doing yoga to increase my... to improve my core strength. So I didn't think any of it. I thought in such good physical shape, I can lift that box without it straining me.
The queues at Argos are huge.
Yeah.
How long was you in the queue for?
For ages.
So it was a few weeks later that you
Absolutely.
opened it, ready for Christmas. Nothing was in there. What happened next?
Well, I kept the box, didn't I?
So you went on to have this Christmas without a Christmas tree in your flat?
I actually, believe it or not, I did use the box instead of the Christmas tree.
As a tree?
Because there was pictures of a Christmas tree on the outside. And
The saddest Christmas ever.
I have one further question.
Yes?
Why were you
the
carrying
one.
this box around with you for 3 weeks?
When I say I didn't take it to social occasion, I didn't say to the box, do we want to go down the park? And then the box at what, end of November? Far too cold. So,
I did not ask you whether or not you socialised with the box.
I tell you what, I took the box into town with me on one occasion. I went all the way into Leicester Square with the box.
Why, on the occasion that you were going into Leicester Square, did you take it with you?
That is a very good question, David, and I shall give you the answer. Because the box and I were going to do a comedy show.
On how many journeys did you take this Christmas tree, other than the one from Argos to your flat and the one from your flat to the comedy show in Leicester Square?
Can we just keep it a bit lighter? He's not up for a war crime.
Not on this occasion, anyway.
David, what do you think?
What do you think, Sean?
I'm sort of having it a little bit. Because anything you buy from Argos, even if it's a big wardrobe, it doesn't weigh anything when you walk out with the box.
Are you an Argos man, Sean?
I used to be.
Really?
Big time, yeah.
What stopped you?
Fame.
Tom?
I think he's... I mean, it's a
Sort of.
ridiculous story. But, I mean, he's a canny fella.
So, should we go for true?
Yeah.
True?
Yeah.
We're going to say true.
All right. Henning, truth or lie?
This story is true. As a kid, my parents denied me chocolate, so every Easter, I had to run around the garden and hunt the Easter onion.
The Easter onion, yes. David, where'd you begin?
Then were the days.
Why were you denied chocolate?
It's not good for you, is it?
And why did you hunt an onion? Why didn't you just say, I don't give a damn where that onion is. It's not a treat.
Well, you do what you're told to do, innit? As a kid.
So you would look for the onion, and you would find the onion, and you would say...
I'd say, da ist die Zwiebel.
What? What?
My days in Germany said, there's the onion.
What would happen then?
Then I would hold it aloft. And...
And at what point in your family's Easter celebrations would the onion hunt occur?
well, when on Easter Sunday.
On Easter Sunday, in the morning on Easter Sunday,
I would be out in the garden.
So, but before your parents were up, you were already out there.
Henning, do you get on with your parents?
Very well, yeah.
Are they nice?
Yeah, I mean, my father is dead, but he was a really jolly fella, and yeah, my mother is all right, yeah.
I'm glad you didn't do the speech at the funeral.
Once you track the onion down, Henning, would you tuck into it?
Yeah, you have a bite.
Raw?
So,
Of course.
So you're very pleased, you held the onion aloft, and then you took a bite out of it.
Yeah.
I do feel like you're more enchanted by onions than we are.
But obviously they mean a lot to me because I knew Easter Sunday it was time to go in the garden and hunt the Easter onion.
What are you thinking, Rachel?
I was half believing him until the biting into it.
They're quite solid, aren't they? It's like a tennis ball, isn't
Yeah.
it?
The thing is, I can bite into an onion because I wasn't allowed chocolate. That means my teeth are good.
Yeah.
Would your mother and your father, when he was alive, would they share the experience?
He would occasionally bite in an onion.
You'd hold it aloft, they'd say, well done, little Henning. And they'd all... Look what Henning has done. And then... He's holding it aloft. Quick, quick. Get the camera. And then, would they also tuck into the onion?
It was. Just thinking of that onion makes me eyes water.
What do you think? Is that truth?
What do you think?
Well, even though he started crying at the memory, I don't know. They're crocodile tears.
He does seem very moved, doesn't he?
What do you think, Alex?
I hope it's true, but I think it's not.
I think it's a lie.
It's a lie. You're saying it's a lie. Henning, did the Easter Bunny bring an onion?
Sadly, it's a lie. I once refused to use a dressing room because I could sense the aura of Derek Acorah.
David's team.
Who's Derek Acorah?
Now, there's a lot riding on this.
Well, he is like someone who can get in touch with the world that isn't there.
The other side.
He has a side.
The other side, yeah. ITV.
So... So, yeah, any questions?
Yeah.
Paint a picture. Where were you?
I was in a theatre.
Where?
Stockport. I was working there that day.
In what capacity?
Well, they thought they had booked a stand-up comedian. I went into a dressing room, and that room felt ever so cold.
It was Stockport.
No, but not like temperature-wise. It felt like spooky cold.
Oh, yes.
Like,
Yes, but that's
like
what happens
chilling.
if you go into a room where there's a ghost. But Derek Acorah is alive, is he not? He's just somebody who can speak to ghosts.
Well, what happened was, I don't know who he speaks to or what, but...
Or who he is.
No, you are almost right, but you're wrong. As in, I've never seen him, but he was working in that place the day before.
Ah.
To describe the coldness of that room, the thermometer won't be any help. It was like all life was sucked out that room. Now you step in there and you think...
Well, tell us what you were thinking, otherwise it won't work.
No, it's like you step in there, I mean, it's like...
Are you sure you weren't on stage and that was the audience?
No, it was like, I can't really describe it. So you're in that...
I know.
In that dressing... I says to one of the people working there, I say, which dressing room was that Derek Acorah in yesterday?
And she said, I don't know, I died in 1742.
I mean, you could have had 5 bobbleheads and you would still have gone, oh, poor blimey, it's freezing in here.
And you came to the conclusion that this was the aura of Derek Acorah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I'm not like...
Telling the truth?
No. So I'm not one of them that goes round out there, and all that. But I've never experienced anything like it. Well, I obviously was instantly out, went to one of the other dressing rooms, and it was like as if life had returned to me and Stockport.
Wow.
Let's go for a decision. What's it going to be? Joe?
Completely preposterous.
Really?
I think it's true.
Do you believe in ghosts?
No. But I believe
Well, how
that
could it be true?
I believe that he believes in ghosts.
No, he's a sort of savage rationalist.
It's 2 to 1, lie against
I think
truth.
we're going to go lie.
You're going to say...
We'll go lie.
Lie. Henning, were you telling the truth or were you telling a lie?
This was 100% the truth. Because I already know what I look like. I do not have a single mirror in my house.
Please, T.
You don't own a mirror because you already know what you look like. Yeah, but none of us are looking in the mirror to remind ourselves what we look like. We're doing it to straighten our hair or brush our teeth.
Well, you need to look in the mirror to brush your teeth.
Yeah, I do, actually.
I use a toothbrush.
What about nasal hair and ear hair and things like that?
Well, there is so many mirrors about, if you really want to know. Any old cafe or restaurant.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So
nasal
you take a
trimmers
nasal
to the
clippers with you.
Yeah, well, don't you know it? Can't you feel if you've got nasal hair or not?
Well, yeah, but how do you get... Well, do you ever trim them with anything?
You said, yeah, but I can't feel if I've got nasal hair or not. Do I need to see a doctor about that? I can't...
Your nasal hair's massive. It's grown all over here.
When did the decision come to stop having mirrors?
It's not a conscious decision, but I don't like palaver.
So there's no palaver lamps in your house either? What about when you're shaving? How do you shave?
Oh,
I've got an electric shaver.
Yeah, I know I've got an electric razor.
How do you know how much charge is in it if you can't see it reflected in the mirror?
I think you can look at it with your eyes.
Look at it.
You have a break, PC, and I will carry on with this interview.
OK, I'll tell you what, Henning. So you wake up in the morning, OK? It's time for Henning to do his ablutions. Talk us through it.
I get up.
Are you pyjamaed or do you sleep naked?
Halfway.
Please tell me you don't just wear a pyjama top.
No, I've got underpants and then usually no top on.
You sleep in just your underpants?
That's what I sleep in. In Henning's underpants. Yeah.
Come on, you get out of bed, what happens next?
Well, I have a shower.
Right.
Brush my teeth.
You haven't had a little look at yourself to go, oh dear, I don't look very good.
When did you last look in the mirror and thought, oh, I didn't think I would look like this?
Here's the thing, right? Your hair's, you know, it's in place.
Yeah.
Well, you're not just feeling each individual strand, are you?
What do I need to do with my hair?
Don't get me started.
OK, what's it going to be? Truth or lie?
Simon?
I think it's a lie.
It's got to be a lie.
It's got to be a lie, yeah.
So you're saying it's a lie?
Yeah.
OK, Henning, no mirrors in your house. True or lie?
Absolutely true.
I once made a decision in a caravan park at midnight that I soon came to deeply regret.
Oh, God. Right, OK. What decision did you come to at midnight in a caravan park?
Well, as I always say, David, it's a long time ago. So my memory's a bit... It's like trying to locate a rabbit's tear in a petrol spill.
Yeah.
Not easy.
Is it going to be the sort of distant remembrance that could be mistaken for invention?
That's
or
the
it would
one.
be indistinguishable, the two forms of brain activity. They look identical.
They can do, yes.
Yes.
But they taste different.
Where was the caravan park?
In Hartlepool, Crimden Dean. Which
Well, we
is
know what the decision was that you regretted.
Yeah, on the beautiful coast at Hartlepool, Crimden Dean, static caravans, you know the ones...
Yes.
They look like porter cabins.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that appealed to us when we saw the brochure.
Who were you there with?
I was there with my friends. This would be, I would say, 1975-ish, because I was with Cags and Harry Harriman and Buttery Ken, who of course was named that because his dad worked at a dairy farm. So it wasn't just random.
So, was you out dancing, raving before the decision was made?
No, it was bingo.
No,
and,
bingo.
And reruns of the horse racing. We'd been to the social club.
Yes. Was this all of you now? You said Harry Harriman was there and Buttery Ken.
I think there were 6 of us.
Well, who were the others?
The other ones. Slow Colin was there.
Slow Colin?
Yes.
Why was he called Slow Colin?
Well, why do you think, mate? He was very slow.
Physically slow?
Physically slow.
Right, OK.
Yeah. And Still Barry.
Wow. After all these years, he's still called Barry. Is that how he got the nickname? He didn't have it. He didn't have anything about it. He went, what can we call it? Well, he's still called Barry. Let's call him Still Barry.
So, yeah, 6 of us with our flares and...
OK, so all those people were there. And we've definitely given you enough time now to remember the thing that you regretted.
Well, on my way back from social club, I was dragged away from my friends by an old woman. Probably only about 40, but old to me then. And she thrust me up against a static caravan.
Hang on.
Right.
And I said, come and help us, slow Colin. Will anybody help me? And she started to kiss me.
Kiss?
And I noticed that next to us was, you know, the Calagas canisters. So, snog in, spot them, realise it's a safety issue, push her away.
It was that hot a kiss. So you disengaged?
Disengaged and went away. And the important point is she shouted at me words similar to, my husband, my fella, is going to kill you.
Wow.
But I went back to the caravan and I said to me mates, there's a bloke's going to kill us.
Oh, us? That was kind of it.
You're all included.
Us?
So, we were very scared young boys, and so we decided we had to get out of there.
Yeah.
So we decided to walk the 26 miles to Newcastle to watch the movie of the rock opera Tommy by who? The Who.
That's not a quiz question, it was by The Who.
By The Who.
So 26-mile walk, when did you envisage arriving in Newcastle? And what screening of Tommy were you aiming for?
We set off at midnight. It was dark. The moon hadn't been attached to mains power by that point. Slow progress, because, of course, we had our flares on, which acted like sails, trying to get through.
I had slow Colin with you anyway.
And still Barry, who doesn't move at all.
But, Bob, which bit of this decision do you regret?
I'm not even there yet.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
So all of this for nothing?
I can end it quick if you want.
No. Is that what you said to her?
No.
So we got there, I'm thinking round about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Having been walking all night.
All night.
OK.
Isn't that incredible?
What happened next?
So, this is old-fashioned ABC cinema, and I don't know if you remember, they'd often have the fire exits out onto the street.
Yeah.
One of them was open. We crept in, and we went to sleep between the seats, waiting for the film to come on. And, you know, I think we deserved the sleep, and I ain't going to apologise for it.
OK. What do you regret, then?
We didn't see the film. That's the regret.
So, what's it going to be, then? Could that be true?
Well, David, all I'll say is, when I heard Bob read the card, he said at midnight he made a regrettable decision.
Yeah.
But the cinema was in the morning. You said it was a 7 or 8.
According to this story, the regrettable decision was made at about 10:30 a.m.
No. The decision to go and see the film was made at midnight. And
Well, you regret not seeing the film. You don't regret the decision to see the film.
I suppose you're right, David, yeah. I know I regret something.
It's the walk for me.
Yeah.
When it started getting to the day, why didn't you hop on a train?
Maybe.
Or a bus?
Because the only money we had. But maybe not.
I don't see where the gas canisters came into it.
Not yet, no.
I suppose there's part of me that wonders whether, as Bob mentioned the gas canisters, he wasn't quite sure how the story was going to go. Yeah. And he thought, I'm going to mention the gas canisters, see if I'm going to use that. No, I'm not. And obviously this could be remembering, but it could be thinking it up.
Lie, for sure.
You think for sure? Well,
sure.
let me just pick you up on the phrase "for sure," because I promise you it is not certain. From anyone else, that story is completely unbelievable.
What's unbelievable about what are you not believing?
You're not traumatised like me by Bob's appearances on this show. So you're just, quite simply, you're just listening to what he's saying. Clearly, that's not the sort of thing that happens to people. So you're just happy to say lie.
Yeah.
OK, that's
Yeah.
fine.
It's not as easy for you, though, is it?
It isn't as easy because he does his own dentistry in a chair he balances on his kitchen island, which I would say is less plausible than this story about walking to see Tommy. We're going to say lie. We're going to say lie.
No.
And then, certainly in one of the infinite number of universes, Bob is going to go, no, it's true. And then what's going to happen to me?
Well, are you all right?
I don't think so, no.
Let's find out.
And do you know, I'm surprised that no one on the production has asked that earlier in this process.
So you're saying it's a lie?
Yes, I'm saying it's a lie.
OK,
And may I add, it had better be one.
Right, Bob, this is a big moment. What you've just told us...
Yes.
Was it true, or, as David thinks, was it a lie?
I was telling the truth.
I am not OK.
So please welcome this week's special guest, Steve. So, Alice, what is Steve to you?
This is Steve, and for over 17 years, we have been having an argument about a courgette.
Bob, how do you know Steve?
This is Steve, and I won his appendix off him in a bet.
And finally, Lee, your relationship with Steve.
This is Steve. He landed his helicopter to tell me off because he saw me shushing him whilst he was in the sky.
All right, there we have it. David's team, where will you begin?
This courgette row, Alice, what's it about?
It's about a nuance of horticulture, which is essentially, is a courgette a small version of a marrow, or could they possibly be two separate species?
And how long has this argument been going on for?
17 years.
So when did this argument first start popping off?
17 years ago.
OK, give me the context.
How did you know each other?
We'd known each other for a while because Steve was going out with one of my friends.
OK.
We were on holiday together, and this argument just sort of took over everything.
Was alcohol involved?
Might have been.
It's easier to have long arguments about things that don't really matter if you're drunk.
We've done 16 series of this.
It's also easier if you're paid.
Which side of it are you on? What is your belief?
Originally, I was pretty sure that a marrow was just a large courgette.
But don't you work with bones?
I work with archaeological human remains.
So surely you'd know more about bone marrows, no?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know what they want, if not that.
If the courgette becomes a marrow, which I was always led to believe, when does it become a marrow and when is it a courgette? There must be a perfect time when it's half and half.
There must be, but you never see it.
You see, that is what the billionaires eat. Because there's only a millisecond when it lies between the two, and you have to have people watching all night, ready to freeze it at the point, and then they will dine for hours, or they call it margette.
How can a disagreement of this nature become heated?
Yes. What is there to say?
That is very marrow-minded.
Well, then you keep on arguing about the colour, the morphology, the shape of the fruit.
Maybe I'm missing a point here. Can you not just look it up in a book?
That's a very fair question.
OK, go. I didn't have a smartphone in 2005.
But since then, you've probably purchased one at some point. Why didn't you look it up?
Because it doesn't seem like the sort of thing which is important.
Who would you like to quiz next?
Bob.
Bob, just remind us of your statement.
This is Steve, who I won his appendix from him in a bet.
Right.
So, go on, do it to me.
I'm not willing to give you any information unless you ask for it.
You're making me ask.
Yes.
You're making me come to you cap in hand.
Yes.
And going, fill this with your nonsense. Fill this with whatever corrupted balderdash comes out of you, and then I will put it on my head.
And set fire to it. No.
So how do you know him?
We were both members of what's called the Middlesbrough Supporters South Club, and we watched the occasional football matches together as Middlesbrough supporters in London.
So you'd go to a pub and watch...
Yeah, no, usually the same pub, the Wheatsheaf in Borough.
That sounds plausible as a pub. I bet that exists. Can we just stay with that? OK. And one day, you're there watching the... Is this when the bet is
Funnily enough, no.
Right.
The match had finished. We stayed around for a booze, and me, Steve, and a couple of other lads. We went back to, not Steve's house, but one of our fellow Middlesbrough supporters who lives in Lant Street, just beyond the Wheatsheaf.
How does the bet come about?
We played darts.
All right.
We played darts for
That's always nice. People leave the pub, go home, play darts. Yeah.
And then the duvet was a great big bar towel. Just...
They still have bar towels. They're more like metal grids now.
Yeah, they've gridded them up.
They've gridded them up and raised them.
It's all preparing for A1 to take over. AI, sorry.
A1!
Did you think that film with Will Smith was called A1?
So, Bob, I have had my appendix removed.
Me too.
And the only reason I knew I needed it removed is because suddenly, in a fit of pain, it started to proper bubble up. So how can Steve now bet his appendix unless it's the day that it starts throbbing?
He had it out as a child, and it was in a jar with a little red top. And they come out red, but over the years it had turned yellow. And I thought that was a very nice transition, colour-wise. Red to yellow.
And when it finally goes green, you're allowed to go, aren't you?
How does the bet come about?
The bet comes about because I won, and I think it was quite a lot of money, 50 quid or whatever. Steve wanted a final game. Yeah. I didn't want a game, so I demanded, if I win, I take your appendix.
Right.
It's on the shelf with some wisdom teeth.
But why is his appendix there?
Ask Steve.
As you well know, I'm not allowed to ask Steve.
No,
but you're not in Steve's flat, are you?
No.
You've come to this flat straight from the pub.
Yes. No, I realised... No, I realised that.
Yes.
Yes.
He just brought it with him to the game.
Oh, did I say it wasn't Steve's flat?
Yes, you did say it wasn't
No, it was Steve's flat in Lant Street. I do apologise.
I mean, you definitely said it wasn't Steve's flat.
Well, then I'm a fool and I'm ashamed.
He's trying to weigh up the odds here. Did I accidentally say the wrong name, or did he bring all bits of his body to the game and put them on the mantelpiece? And he's very wisely gone for the wrong name.
It was Steve's flat.
Yeah.
Suddenly. And so the various body parts are on the shelf already. And you win both his wisdom teeth and his appendix.
Just the appendix.
Oh, you left the teeth.
Yeah, I didn't fancy them, so...
All right, yeah.
Oh, I had my wisdom teeth out the other day.
Did you?
The other day?
You probably did that yourself in the kitchen.
All right. What about Lee?
OK, so Lee, remind us of your
This
name.
is Steve, and he landed his helicopter to tell me off after he saw me shushing him whilst he was in the sky.
Where were you?
Yeah.
I was in a field in Surrey. I was bird watching.
You were bird watching in a field in Surrey.
Were you there?
Can you describe your immediate surroundings as you were bird watching?
Well, it was me. It was my wife, my children. They were around me.
Were you sort of hiding behind a hedge?
We were sort of crouching behind. I think, if I remember rightly, I said, "Lo, is that a magpie?" And so we ducked down.
Oh, magpie, because that's a rare spot. That's worth the journey.
If you let me finish, David.
OK.
Is that a magpie? If it is, let's not bother. Wait. Actually, I think it's a woodpecker.
You saw a woodpecker?
Yes, I heard it first.
You heard it? Great.
Can someone answer the door? I'm looking at the corner sin.
When did you develop this new interest?
Well, we had a bird bath in the garden, and I just got addicted. It's the only word, addicted to looking at those little creatures. Amazed. They're like mice with wings, aren't they, small birds? Yeah. But with no tails. Or ears.
OK.
Or teeth.
Tell me that
Or legs.
Lee, it's been fascinating.
They're nothing like mice, are they?
Some birds have legs.
So far, you haven't mentioned how Steve, the pilot, came into this.
We're ticking them off. That's what you do when you're a twitcher. You tick them off, and then I hear it. Him in his helicopter, innit? Oh. He's only a policeman looking for a criminal on the run.
Oh, really?
That's why he's so low. But then he stops. He goes a bit lower. Why does he go lower? He sees a man hiding in the bush. That's why I go. Well, he's not happy. Goes straight down like that and he lands.
OK. What's in the field that he's
a helicopter now.
No, but what was there before?
No helicopter, just grass.
So how did he see you in a bush?
Because he is a policeman and they have specialist equipment to search for people. Have you ever watched the Channel 5 documentary? Everything goes green. But only at night. But they've got a day set in these machines.
So he spotted you and your family...
No, just spotted me at first.
Using a thermal camera. Your children didn't show up on the thermal camera.
I said to them, I said, I told you to wear a coat.
So Steve gets out of the helicopter.
Yes. Approaches me.
And says what?
He says... So you're going to have to turn it off first, mate. I can't hear a word you're saying.
Yeah. OK. What does Steve say?
He said, you toe rag.
Steve, honestly. This is not how they should be treating, may I say, national treasures. And how does the conversation end?
I said, oh, you want to go straight to the end? Bye.
Well, I don't know. How long is it?
But there was more conversation. He said, listen, we're on police duty here. We're looking for a major criminal, OK? We had to swoop low. The person in question, David, had killed 2 people. It's not funny now, is it?
All right, we need an answer. So, is Steve Alice's bickering buddy, Bob's luckless loser, or Lee's furious flyer?
I don't think that helicopter pilots notice people shushing them.
No.
Yeah, also Lee wouldn't go birdwatching as well.
Yeah.
But what about Bob?
Bob, he tripped over his own details.
If you're basing your decision on my mistake over the flat, I advise you strongly against that.
You can see what he's doing, can't you? Even though, apparently, we've totally caught him out. We've totally caught him out. And he said it was someone else's flat and the appendix was there. Should be it. Game, set and match. But, oh, no. What if he did that deliberately? What if, oh, my mistake. Yes, of course it was Steve's flat. Oh, dear me. Head in hands. And that's just luring me in. Isn't it? Like when the Norman soldiers pretended to run away and the Saxons came off the hill and then they turned and they cut them down.
I think, David, you should actually sit this one out because you are traumatised.
Thank you. I will take a bit of a sabbatical.
Yeah.
We've ruled out Lee. Now you two decide between the other 2.
I like the way you did that. It's completely up to you 2, but not Lee.
It's not Lee. Yeah.
If you're on holiday, are you going to be having an argument for 2 hours over a courgette?
Academics, that's the kind of thing they argue about, you know?
That's true.
That is like proper full-on banter to them.
Yeah, that is true.
So, David, I can rest assured it is Alice.
I think it's the courgette.
I can rest assured.
Yeah?
Yeah.
David?
He's worrying me again.
Listen,
I don't know. I think I don't know, actually. I think
you're
Bob.
falling for it.
He's affecting her now.
It's actually Bob. It's you, Bob. It's Bob.
OK, it's time to decide.
Well, I mean... OK.
I think this could break him.
I do think Steve looks like someone who could have a 17-year row about the genetic makeup of a vegetable.
So you're going to say it's Alice,
That's
then,
what
yes?
I'm going to say. Yeah, we're going with that. That's what we're going with.
Steve, would you please reveal your true identity?
I'm Steve, and Alice and I have been arguing about Courgette for 17 years.
Yes, Steve is Alice's bickering buddy. Thank you very much, Steve.
On a dark winter's night, I once broke into the garden of the local witch's house and was shocked by what I found there.
David, Steve.
OK, at what point...
There's a lot of questions, isn't there?
At what point in your life did this happen?
I'm going to guess somewhere between when I was 11 and 13.
12?
I'm going to say 12.
And you say the local witch's house. What do you mean by that?
I mean, this is a very distant memory now.
OK.
It was the house, not very far from me, where all the kids said that the witch lived.
And who did live there?
I don't know their name.
Right.
I'll call them Mary Candles. It had hedges at the front, you know, it's like uncut hedges, a front gate covered with hedging, and it said on the front gate, it said simply the words, "No thanks."
No, really?
So that's quite creepy, isn't it?
Can I ask a question? You started that with saying you were shocked by what you saw there.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes,
so shocked by what I found there.
So what did you find there?
I'm not comfortable with telling you that just yet. Sorry, I'm not.
This is going so far, it's got to be a lie, isn't it?
Let me just say, it does not have to be a lie. Whatever he says, however absurd, it could still be true. However plausible, it could still be a lie. It's just, essentially, what we are doing for this section is entirely futile. We will talk for a bit, then we will guess, then it will be over.
So how did you come to go into this house? Who were you with?
I was with, what's he called? I was with Ken Numbers. I changed it, yeah. Ronnie Calculator's son. The vibe is, it's very unkempt, it's the gardening, because as we all know, Lee, witches hate gardening, wizards hate plumbing. So we knew it was a female residence.
Right. So you'd never seen Mary Candles, but you were only speculating it must be a witch rather than a wizard because it was an unkempt garden with no sign of deficient plumbing.
Exactly. And, you know, we wanted to be the first people who said, no, we penetrated, you know, its boundaries.
Yeah.
We went into the front lawn, down a gate to the side, past the bins, past the back door, and then to the window where there was a light on, a big picture window, looked inside, and that's when we saw this extraordinary sight. Well, extraordinary to us as 12-year-olds.
What was it? You've got to say.
It was a tiny, tiny horse. And I'm not saying it was watching television, that was all that was in the room, was a tiny horse and a television on. I did get in the house.
You got in the house?
Yes, Mrs. Candles came out.
Right.
Oh.
Yes, and she said to me, "You're one of the Mortimer boys, aren't you?"
Were you?
Yeah. So Ken said. And she said, "Would you like to come in and see the horse?" And she took us in, and it stank of paraffin. It was hot.
That's horse?
Hot. No, the house.
I thought the horse stunk of paraffin.
The horse did stink, actually.
Did he?
Yeah.
Of?
Meat, hot meat. As we were looking at the horse, I always remember this, she came in, and she had a toilet seat in her hand. And she said, "If I gave you some money, do you think you could get rid of this for me?"
What did you do with it?
Just threw it on our way home, just threw it somewhere else, I imagine.
Did she say what the horse's name was?
Max.
Yes. You'd have thought minimum.
All right, Right, well, now, Suggs, what are you thinking about this?
I mean, you know, it's so preposterous, but David's flung me by saying this is the way he carries on anyway.
Oh,
Yeah, same.
I mean, but no, I'm saying lie, of course.
You say it's a lie.
It was when you said the horse smelt like hot meat.
Well, do you remember the detail of the paraffin heaters?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
We're talking 40, maybe 50 degrees there with those old...
40 or 50 degrees centigrade. So we're talking like the temperature of the desert in Saudi Arabia.
Did you ever see Mary Candles again?
No, never.
Never saw her again?
Never saw her again.
She probably melted in that heat.
All right, what are you going to say then, David?
Do we think lie?
I think it's a lie. I think it's a lie.
I think it is a lie.
All right, they're saying it's a lie. Now, we should bear in mind that when it comes to Bob, David has a very poor track record. Let's see if he can be better tonight. Bob, truth or lie?
I was telling the truth.
It's true. Bob really did break into a creepy garden.
My first taste of fame was when the local newspaper dubbed me the Cockroach King.
David's team.
What was the newspaper?
My local. It was called the South London Press.
So, are you from South London?
I was in the lead-up to the headline, The Cockroach King.
Why were you in the public eye doing what?
I was a solicitor at the time, and I sued the local authority because of cockroach infestations in the council houses. Yes! That's what I did.
And of course, it was that kind of style in court that won the day.
We settled outside of court, actually. But I had to change the names because these are real legal proceedings that we're talking about.
Right. Well, why does the fact that it's real legal proceedings mean you have to change the names?
Because I don't think it's fair to say that, let's say she's called Barbara Lighthouse. Lived in the horror of cockroach infestation.
Were you representing Barbara Lighthouse?
I was, yes.
She'd engaged your services?
She's engaged my services. I visited her property.
Must have been ages to get to the top.
There were Egyptian cockroaches. So I had an idea, right? I said, I bet this is bad for your mental health, living with cockroaches. And I took them to the magistrate's court on a private criminal prosecution under the Public Health Act.
Why are you counting every letter in the same? Are you working out how much to charge her?
You mentioned the Egyptian cockroach.
The Egyptian cockroach,
How
yeah.
many? I wasn't aware there were different types.
They live in the concrete, and they can actually live off the concrete that the buildings are made of.
Bob, eat concrete?
Yep.
Bob, they got some hard cockroaches. They live in the concrete.
They nip out to go behind the fridge or the cooker, or to turn the light out.
What were the size of these Egyptian cockroaches?
They're long and thin, slip right in.
That's my profile on Tinder.
It is odd the Cockroach King would suggest a champion of the cockroach rather than an opponent.
Or in fact, their leader.
Yes.
Did you lead the cockroaches away like the Pied Piper?
No, I didn't. What happened is I got an expert from the University of Cambridge called Broccoli High Kicks. Again, I've changed his name. His brief from me was, can you in any way argue that this is contrary to public health? He confirmed it, went to court. It's all coming ever so clear now. We went to court, yeah. Ronnie Omlets was the housing officer.
You were thinking is you haven't changed his name, have you?
And what was she called? Barbara Lighthouse. Barbara Lighthouse brought a clear jar of the cockroaches with her and poured them over Ronnie omelettes. Right? Of course, he was very frightened, didn't know what to do, at which point Barbara Lighthouse said, I think I've made my point, you know, to the housing officer.
Yeah.
This is what I live with. So, the council agreed to rehouse. Next day, the cockroach king.
Right, what's he going to say, Dave?
What do you think?
It's that bizarre that only Bob could make it up, so I think that's true.
That doesn't make sense. If you're saying only Bob could make it up, then he could have made it up.
No, only Bob can make it up like that.
Right.
So convincing.
Yeah. So we're in trouble, aren't we? Because you're saying that if anyone else had said it, it would definitely be true because they couldn't have invented it. The one person who's saying it is also coincidentally the only human who could also have invented it.
Yes.
What a terrible set of circumstances. You think it's true?
I think it's true.
Do you think it's true?
Yes, let's say it's true.
We're going to go true.
OK. Now, Bob, truth or lie?
I was telling the truth. As a teenager, I used to terrorise my neighbourhood with a game I invented called Theft and Shrubbery.
What were the rules of theft and shrubbery?
Can I first of all say my memories of this are a bit sketchy?
Always handy for this game.
No, but I'm an older gentleman. They're more like just, you know, just fingerprints on an abandoned handrail.
Even while you poetically describe the ageing process, another part of your brain is inventing the rules of a fictional game.
It's Theft and Shrubbery. Yeah. It's a game that I played in my youth, in my teens, on the Lakes estate in Middlesbrough. I would probably be 14 or 15. I hope that's all the information you need.
As to what this game involved?
Yes, of course.
Of course. In which case, I'm satisfied and there's no need to tell me. What were the rules?
There would have to be a gang of you. I would usually be with Staver and Bagger.
Well, I didn't realise you knew hobbits as a child.
Neil Overall, Jerry Dungaree's son, of course.
Didn't take his father's name.
Hated him. Yeah. Hated him. So, and Gary Cheeseman would be there. The reason he was called Cheesy is because his mum used to give him a cheese. Do you know the cheese slice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To take out with him when we were hanging around the shops and that, because she thought it was good for his spots. And she'd want him to personally slice.
Surely it's because of his surname Cheeseman.
No.
Surely that was part of it.
Do you know, Gary Cheeseman was a big lad, yeah? A very big head. A sniper's dream, they used to call him. Oh, he's such a nice... The thing is, he's such a nice lad. And he was a...
I love these points in the show where we say, Bob, let's all gather around the fireside and you can tell us tales of your youth.
So the rules of the game, of course you will know. The rules of the game. Theft and... Shrubbery. Were relatively simple. You had to creep into the back of someone's house and observe the family watching the telly or whatever they're doing, yeah?
It's getting a bit sinister now, Bob.
Yeah, I know.
Is this at night?
This is on the evening time, yeah.
So the family, as it were, backlit by the domestic lighting.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then you'd find one where the curtains were open, yeah? Go to the rear of the garden, and then you'd slowly walk towards the window, right? Try not to disturb them, and you'd chant, increasing the volume as you went. We do beg your pardon. But we are in your garden. And then you gradually get closer and closer to the window, and as soon as you were seen, that's when shrubbery comes in.
Which was what?
You were not allowed to escape via the front of the property. You had to go across all the fences. Because you're teenage, what you're really waiting for is someone to make a noise or give yourself away, so that you all have to go run through all the gardens.
That's the shrubbery part.
That's the shrubbery
What's the
part.
theft part?
The theft is... We just always felt that we were stealing something from them. I don't know. Their privacy, their dignity.
So you're going up the garden saying louder and louder, "We do beg your pardon, we are in your garden." We do beg your pardon, we are in your garden. You're shouting.
How loud did you get?
People who are hard of hearing, you could be going, "We do beg your pardon, we are in your garden," before they notice it.
Yeah.
This game can't have lasted, I'm imagining, very long before people kind of rumbled you and...
No, it was just one of the games, that we did. It could be theft and shrubbery night. There was another night where we used to take fruit from a fruit vendor's wagon and throw that up in the air and just let it drop on our heads.
Something tells me you played that quite a lot, Bob. Next time, don't use melons.
Cheeseman was very good at it.
So what do you think, David?
Steve, what do you
My
think?
concern is that the details are so utterly believable and sound like they're real that if it wasn't actually a game, he spent an awful lot of time looking through people's windows.
I'm coming down on the side of truth.
Yeah, I know it sounds odd, but I just believe it.
You're going to say true? Yeah. OK, so, theft and shrubbery. Bob, truth or lie?
I was telling the truth. I once set fire to my house with a box of fireworks.
David Mitchell's team.
Was this on purpose?
It was done out of ignorance.
What age were you?
I was somewhere around about 7.
I want to know where you grew up, where a 7-year-old can buy a box of fireworks.
I bought them in the shop near where I lived in Middlesbrough. It was a box for 2 and 6 of standard fireworks. That was the brand.
Standard brand. That sounds exciting. Standard fireworks. Yeah. A normal level of excitement will be endangered. Yeah. For a bonfire night, you will forget.
But it says standard, but then it's...
Well, that is standard for a firework.
Yeah.
So you're in your home, and you're 7 or 8 years old.
I'm 7 and I'm on my own, yeah.
On your own?
Yeah, and
What
on one of the fireworks, I think it was the sparklers, it said, not suitable for indoor use. Which, at that age, makes you think, that means they're OK.
Could you just not read the word "not" when you were being...
Did you think "not" was the brand? You go, oh, lovely, I love that not brand food. It's not for human consumption.
I know that logic that says, well, people have obviously tried them indoors.
I've discovered they're not suitable.
Yeah.
So therefore, I won't use them indoors because I want to live.
If you look at a big firework, it won't say not suitable for indoors. It's obvious.
Yeah. Right.
But on the sparklers, they chose to put it on.
So what happened?
I lit the sparkler. The sparks went into the box of fireworks, a standard box, and set them off. And I carried the box of fireworks, now beginning to light, into the kitchen, and I threw them into the kitchen. I thought it would be more suitable.
I think you're right. The kitchen, of all the rooms, is the most suitable for fireworks, isn't it?
Because of the oven, the gas, the stove. There is fire naturally in the kitchen.
Yeah, there's a lot of... And it's more wiped down.
Yes.
Less cloth.
So what happened then?
They went off in the
What was the sound like? Was it bing, wee?
No, these were only standard. And, I remember, as I'm sat here now, wiping the scorch marks off the floor and thinking that my mum's going to kill me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be in big trouble. Then I went back into the living room. Unbeknownst to me, I dropped one. And the living room was completely engulfed in flames.
It sounds to me that if you're on your own at home at 7, your mum's pretty laid back anyway.
She said, son, will you sit here and look after these fireworks? Whilst I go out to the bingo.
So you lit the sparkler. A spark went into the standard box.
Yes.
The box starts to go. You go, uh-oh, I must get them into the most suitable room for fireworks.
Yes.
The kitchen. No need to go beyond the kitchen to the outdoors.
Yeah. Mum said don't go out.
It's good to know there was at least one rule in your house.
What time of day did all this happen?
This happened mid-afternoon.
Oh dear, so you didn't really get the benefit of it.
Who put the fire out? I went to next door where Miss Best lived. She was bless her, she's about 80. And I knocked on their door and said, my house is on fire. And she said, do you know, I thought it was.
So what happened then?
She called the fire brigade. They fired their water hoses throughout the house.
Yes.
Ruining it.
Even the rooms where there's no fire.
Not ruining it.
Yeah.
You do know that before they put out fires, it's already ruined, don't you?
Lee.
You're making this house all wet. It was lovely and warm before.
And it's the water damage that knackers the house.
Is it? Not the fire?
Not the fire. If they would use their boots to put it out. Honestly, the entire house, that's it. I was in a family of 4 children, and we were homeless.
Where...
Bob, keep it light.
No, I'm just saying.
Where were all the other kids while you were alone with the fire? Why did you take 3
They
children
were looking
out
after
and leave
fireworks in other people's houses.
So when you say you were homeless, how much of the house did the inferno claim?
It's gone. Entire
That's
house
what, the
gone.
whole
house gone. Yeah.
The whole house burnt down?
Burnt down.
So how much did you leave in the living room? The fireworks in the kitchen have only caused a few scorches.
Yeah.
What did you leave in the living room?
And now, don't you feel stupid for saying standard fireworks?
Yeah.
I tell you,
really.
Well,
I think you were stupid to light a sparkler indoors.
If you don't know what you dropped in the living room, is there a chance that it's just a coincidence?
No, it could be.
That it might not have been your fault?
That's what I said to the press.
Your fault?
Press? What press? Who did you speak to?
Local press.
Because they came to the house while it was burning?
Yeah, you know, they're their hats on, trilbies, sniffing around.
With those little bits of paper in the notebook. Were they called things like Scoop McLean?
I believe he was called Ron Waffle.
Sorry, Ron Waffle?
It was either him, the other ace reporter on the Gazette was John Caramel. It was one of them two.
Caramel and Waffle.
Honestly.
The question is whether you think Bob has been telling the truth.
Well, I thought it seemed very plausible until we heard about caramel and waffle.
I think he thinks he's telling the truth, but I think what's happened at some point, he's seen a film in which this has happened.
He saw backdrop.
And is now convinced that it happened to him. I think it's a lie.
Sarah.
I was going to say I want it to be true, but that sounds really horrible. I think it might be true.
Well, I think it's true. I think it's true.
So you're going to go for true?
Yeah.
OK, Bob, were you telling the truth or were you telling a lie?
I was telling the truth.
Oh.